So another place where I got curious about untranslation was with Washoe, the language of the Washoe tribe. As I researched and wrote about Tahoe, I knew I had to include stories that went beyond white colonization of the lake, beyond the capitalism of the lake's current structure, although that certainly comes up too. Thanks to some family inheritance, my wife and I are able to own a home in Lake Tahoe, which is really magical and restorative and lucky, and also like deep participation in leisure capitalism. So this next poem references one of Tahoe's most famous ski resorts, the place where they held the 1960 Winter Olympics, whose name contains a derogatory term for Native American women. The poem also contains a Washoe term, which might be the original name for this valley, and means the place where the deer run. Thanks to Joanne Nevers for recalling this possible name, and to Herman Fillmore, Culture and Language Resources Director of the Washoe Tribe, for the orthography. The title of the poem is the name of that ski resort, just bleeped out. S Valley. The trail winds down the mountain's side, tree line, hiding what might kill you. Ice crevice, creek not quite gone cold enough to freeze, or another tree, solid as a wall you can smash a body against. You knew a boy who smashed like that, popped his collarbone clean into, helicoptered home. Another popped his truck into a tree, wheel bent and beer bottled as he tumbled onto asphalt, still living. What kind of boy was it, you wonder, who climbed this gorgeous ridge and thought, I ought to name this valley. I ought to name whatever comes into my line of sight, call it after a woman like I call everything I've ever owned, she and her. A boy in uniform, a boy who didn't think of what might already have been named. When you were young, you loved a boy who put his fist into a wall. You understood boys might someday want to put their fists into your body, breakable, what they were raised to be. Comfort them, be the woman who can tend their busted down beds of need. A woman teaching them how to be better, what to tender, what not to break. Oh, what an old and boring story. You'll have to dig to ask around, but you'll find it. This valley's name might be Memdui Itmush, might be no one remembers for sure. You know how to learn what you can. You knew to run off like a deer, be a body of your own, riding down the ridge, not raising the next line of boys. Not when some other mother's boy might stride across some mountain, look you in your face, call you a name you know is not what you are called. So, thanks, y'all. So one winter Sunday 4 years ago, I had to take the train home because there was a really big storm coming. We were going to get snowed in, and being a very responsible high school teacher, I could not miss Monday classes. So my wife, Sandy, drove me the half hour to the Truckee train station, and I took the train home in the storm. It was really stunning, of course, and it also made me realize that I'd never taken the train along this route that our community's ancestors, and at least one of my own ancestors, had built. So my great-grandfather, Mar Dunn, worked on the railroad, and my great-great-grandfather, Wong Lok, was also working in California in the same time period. So about 3 years ago, I started writing this letter poem to the two of them, whose names I didn't actually know at the time, and both of whom I was pretty sure worked on the railroad, although now I know that's probably not the case. So the poem sort of grew into this massive thing. It's 15 pages long, and it's the center of this book manuscript. Okay, ready? Just kidding. I'm only going to read a few excerpts. I'm not going to read 15 pages. That's crazy. The title Cantonese translates to great-great-grandfather, who is my paternal grandmother's grandfather, And then there's another name, which is great-grandfather, who is my paternal grandfather's father, respectively. Chinese people will be, oops. Oh, no. Well, we're real obsessed with lineage titling. It's our own, patriarchal bullshit. And the line, the mountains are calling. There's a line that starts, the mountains are calling. That's a John Muir quote. Okay. Go Zhoufu, a correspondence. Taiye. I have no one left to ask here, so I write to ask you these things. Did you ever see this lake? Were you one of those who scaled that nearby pass? As you looked across this gorgeous landscape, all granite, all tall pine, all blue air, tell me what you thought. Did you hate the mountains for the work, arm swing, pick swing, hammer swing, shovel swing they wrung out of you? Would it be so bad if these mountains were your eternity, the thinner air of heaven? The mountains are calling, and I must go. The blue like a lance to your heart. Blue the basin, the basket, the berry, the juice, blue that counters the yellow of bleach, bluing, blue indigo, blue dye number 4, blue the bruise, the bitter, blue anything but an eye, please, blue the water, the wash, the vein in my body, the vein in my earth, our earth, the sapphire blue, the glittering dark sky at night, sky at day, sky at blue note sounding, blue the print, the plan, the next step into blue, the brazen, the bold, the navy, the few, the proud, who wants that blues? Sing it again, sister, bluer than blue, my blue blood, true blood, TV, fantasy, blue light, blue screen, blue movie, blue balls, blue butch, blue, black, battered and beaten, or blue like a piece of glass with the sun shining through it, blue as a shard, a shatter, a splatter of water, blue blur that won't leave me, don't sparkle for just anything, don't break. Let's not pretend you would have cared what happened to me, except I am your dream of Gamsan made real. My rings of gold, my dress of gold, my eyes of gold, my skin of gold, my mouth, my mouth, my mouth. Of late, no, since I was a child, I've spent a lot of time wondering about the bachelor society. What secrecy that invites, all those bodies, men and male, kept close in their togetherness. I read only silence. Did a Soihak carry your letters for you? I, too, would be a guest in your house, a guest made of water, a guest in every house on this land that shouldn't belong to me. Tiger balm smell of Mama's sore knees. I imagine your knees after each day's labor. Your shoulders ache. Each body's work takes a different weight. Who was the one who rubbed the knots, who laid a sweet and gentle palm, though rough like yours, against your tender hurts? Tell me about him, who loved you best, who you hid, who hid you. Was it your lips to your lips pressed in those claustrophobic kindling rooms? In Hong Kong, I was shy to speak to the other women. I have a girlfriend, too, finally, then laughter. A culture of women away from family and homeland, awash in women's work and the ways it buckled them, but still, a kind of relief. You're teaching me the beauty of revisionist history. I make you lovers because, yes, it is in my power, because my ancestral altar needs a queerer root, because, too, I am afraid of the smoke-thick danger of you if you were not. Girl children in locked cages. Who could love a man like that? Gold is the eye, the tongue, the lion. Gold the mountain, the valley, the river. Gold the nugget, the ingot, the flake, the flume, the fairy, the dust, the feather, the fatherland. Gold the sun and the sunlight, the sun. You wanted sons and sons and sons. Gold the daughter in spite of. Gold the bangles and bracelets and rings. Gold the ornate and elaborate. Hold me here. This is my ordinary hand. Because only barbarians touch like that. I am free to build you in my own image. Your mouth on another man's mouth, unafraid or maybe afraid, quiet in a boarding house bed or a canvas tent, the hurried rush of your bodies before shift change or exhaustion or the call to supper, the joy of it. I'd rather not be gold-dusted shimmer of bronzers and glimmering lotions, potions of nanoparticles that never break down and will float forever in this water, in the gut of a fish, in my blood. No. Tell me about blue, about how you shouted and shuddered when your feet touched the water each time you bathed in the cold spring air. So I have 2 more poems to read. This next one addresses the reason that I had to do so much secondary research on the Chinese history in the region, and also why I've had to invent my own ancestors' stories. And that invention is a kind of freedom, but it's also a kind of heartbreak, right, to not know their stories. One thing that I want to make clear that I learned from historian Gordon Chang, great book, you should all read it, is that railroad laborers at this time were definitely writing, probably extensively. There are railroad company order records for inkstones and calligraphy brushes and paper and all these things. Soyhaks were carrying letters on ships in both directions, but in the western U.S., almost every Chinese settlement in Chinatown was burned down, some of them multiple times, by xenophobic white settlers. And in China, migration, wars, the Cultural Revolution severed a lot of ties between families and their artifacts. So this next poem is the result of these historical events. Catalog of writings left by Chinese railroad laborers of the CPRR. And my final poem tonight is going to be a return to that term, soyhak, that I spoke to you about earlier. This poem was recently published in Volume 30, Issue 1 of the print journal Calyx, which is going to be for sale over on that table. Soyhak. The water, a guest inside of us, salty, sweet, and swimming, how water does, and you, a guest in your own house, a watery word, a guest on the tongue, a gust of air across wet lips, a voice echoing back and back, though nothing's left to prove it, no papers, no shred of evidence, not one letter, not one mark upon the page, no papers, your papers, for a period of 3 long years, an ocean away from where you are not a guest. Where are you from? People ask me, ask people who look like me, look like anything but the blankness of a page. Let me turn then to the color of water into ink ground against a stone, the words carried back by each water guest, each bringer of news and love and tribulation. Here are the words that belong to you. Here are the words that belong. Thank you.